She said I had no soul, right after we made love, not in a fight, not in anger. She was lying in my arms, tracing lazy circles on my chest with her fingertips, whispering into the dim blue light of my bedroom. I just wish I could feel you more. Like, in here, she said, tapping lightly over my heart. It's like you're trying to connect, but there's a wall, like there's nothing behind your eyes. I didn't know what to say, so I stayed quiet. She kissed me gently on the forehead, then rolled over and fell asleep. And I just laid there, staring at the ceiling, wondering how someone could say something like that and then sleep so peacefully. We'd been together almost 3 years. Her name was Elise. She was the kind of person who felt everything too deeply, cried at commercials, couldn't walk past a stray dog without trying to rescue it, believed the moon could influence your mood, and that certain people carried wounded feminine energy. I used to think all that was beautiful. Now, I wasn't sure if it was just a filter she used to excuse herself from empathy. She said I had no soul, and the worst part, I started to believe her. I kept wondering what she meant. Was it the way I didn't cry when my dad died? That I preferred silence to small talk? That I couldn't always keep up when she spiraled through 3 emotional states in 5 minutes? Maybe I was cold. Or just tired, or maybe I had been slowly numbed down by years of carrying other people's drama on my back. But something shifted after she said it. I started noticing things, small things, subtle withdrawals. Elise used to hum when she cooked. She stopped. Her texts got shorter, slower. She began disappearing for hours with no explanation. Then came the incense smell I didn't recognize, the silk robe she never wore for me. The glassy look in her eyes when I asked if something was wrong, and she said, "You just wouldn't get it." One night she came home late, around 11:30, after saying she was out meditating with a group from her Tantra class. I was sitting at the kitchen table, not even trying to look casual anymore. She floated in barefoot, humming. I asked her where she'd been. She kissed me on the forehead like a child and said, "Don't ruin it with questions." That night I couldn't sleep. While she snored gently next to me, I sat up in the dark with my thoughts spinning like a carousel. I felt invisible, less like a boyfriend, more like a shadow of the man she used to want. So when I found her journal under the bed a week later, I didn't hesitate. I'd been looking for the remote. It slipped between the mattress and the frame, and when I pulled it out, the corner of a leather-bound book stuck out from under the far edge. I knew I shouldn't. I knew the second I touched it that this was a violation, but I picked it up anyway. My name was written on the inside cover. My real name, not her nickname for me. I opened it. The first few entries were mundane. Grocery lists, dream fragments. Then I found something that made my heart pause mid-beat. He touched me today. I almost forgot how it felt to be seen asterisk. His energy wakes me up like I'm being pulled out of deep water. It wasn't me. I hadn't touched her that day. I flipped forward. We lay under the willow tree and he read to me from his manuscript. Every word dripped with soul. I could feel myself melt into his voice, his presence. God, if only I were brave enough to leave. Leave, that word hit me like a bat to the chest. I turned the pages frantically, searching for a name, and there it was. Darius saw through me today. I didn't have to say a word. He just knew, like he's known me forever. He said he could feel my pain without me having to explain it, unlike asteriskly asterisk, who just stares like I'm speaking another language. Darius, I felt physically sick, like I'd been dragged underwater and couldn't breathe. Every word twisted a knife deeper. I wasn't the one she was writing to. I wasn't the one she was longing for. I wasn't even the villain in her story. I was just a cardboard cutout of a man, the soulless placeholder for something she thought she deserved. The worst part, I didn't even feel rage. I felt asterisk empty, like she'd hollowed me out one word at a time. But that was only the beginning. I sat there with the journal on my lap, heart pounding, silence screaming around me. The words burned into my brain like neon signs. If only I were brave enough to leave. Brave enough, like being with me was an act of cowardice. I looked over at Elise, curled up on the couch with her legs tucked under her, phone in hand, smiling at something on the screen, probably texting Darius. Or worse, reading his asterisk words. I felt a chill run down my spine, like I wasn't in the room anymore. Like I was already gone, erased from her reality, a ghost sharing space with the woman I thought I loved. I closed the journal slowly, careful not to make a sound. I slipped it back under the bed, exact position and angle, like I hadn't touched it. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from restraint. I should have confronted her right then and there, demanded the truth, but something stopped me. Maybe I wanted to see how deep the lie went. Maybe I wasn't ready to hear it from her lips. Or maybe, just maybe, a part of me was hoping it wasn't what it seemed. The next morning, Elise made pancakes, like nothing was wrong. She danced around the kitchen barefoot, wearing my t-shirt, humming that same song I hadn't heard in weeks, like the guilt had cleansed her overnight. I watched her like I was watching a stranger play a part she no longer remembered. She put the plate in front of me and smiled. "You okay?" she asked, brushing a loose curl behind her ear. "Yeah," I lied, "just tired." She reached out and squeezed my hand. "You've been so quiet lately." I nearly laughed. Quiet, I was screaming inside. Later that day, when she went out to do breathwork with her healing group, I followed her. I told myself it wasn't stalking. It was protection for myself, for the truth. I needed to know she didn't go to a yoga studio or a healing center. She pulled into a small, ivy-covered house on the edge of town, quaint, private. She parked and walked to the door, no hesitation, no phone check, like she'd been there 100 times. He opened the door before she knocked, tall, thin, flowing white shirt like he walked straight out of a cult brochure. They didn't kiss, not right away, but the way he looked at her, it made my stomach twist, like she was the center of his universe, and she glowed asterisk. Her whole body leaned toward him like a flower to sunlight. That was what she meant, that was what I didn't give her. She stepped inside and the door closed. I sat there for almost 2 hours, engine off, barely breathing. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I just sat there watching the windows, half hoping she'd come out and catch me, but she never did. That night I couldn't pretend anymore. Back home, I waited until she got out of the shower, wrapped in a towel, hair dripping down her back. She smiled when she saw me. It was so casual, so normal asterisk, like she wasn't living a double life. "I know about Darius," I said. Her smile froze. I watched the color drain from her face in slow motion. The towel slipped slightly, and she clutched it tighter, like she was suddenly naked in a different way. "I what?" she said. "Don't lie, Elise." She looked at me for a long moment, then sat on the edge of the bed. "You read my journal," she said flatly. "That's what you're focusing on." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "It's private. Not when you're living a fantasy with another man while sleeping in my bed." "It's not what you think. Don't insult me." Silence, a thick, ugly silence that settled between us like a third person in the room. "He understands me," she whispered. "He sees things in me that you never could." "I chose asterisk you," I said. "Through everything, through your storms, your therapy spirals, your silence and breakdowns and moon cycles, I stayed. And you turned me into the villain in your story, because I didn't sparkle like some poet with a savior complex." Her eyes welled with tears, but they didn't fall. "You always kept part of yourself locked away," she said. "Even now you're angry, but I can't feel you. You never let me in. Because you never earned it." She looked at me then, really looked, and for the first time, I think she saw me not as a project, not as a mirror for her own emotions, but as someone she couldn't control. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "No," I said, standing. "You're just finally honest." I didn't yell, I didn't throw anything. I didn't even slam the door, but I left, and she didn't stop me. Leaving was supposed to feel like freedom, like reclaiming some part of myself I'd sacrificed in the name of love, but it didn't. It felt like bleeding out slowly while no one noticed. I moved into a short-term rental on the edge of town, one of those soulless corporate units with fake plants and scratchy towels. I told my friends I needed space. They nodded like they understood, but none of them really asked questions. Elise had always been the loud one, the spark in the room, the reason we got invited anywhere. I was the guy who stood behind her with a quiet smile and a full wallet. Without her, I was just background noise. The nights were the worst. Silence in that apartment wasn't peaceful, it was oppressive. Every creak of the pipes or hum of the fridge reminded me that I used to come home to warmth, to routine, to familiarity, even if it was fake. Now I had nothing but my own thoughts, and I was beginning to realize how many of them weren't really mine. Because the longer I sat alone, the more I started asking myself questions I hadn't had the courage to ask before. Why had I stayed so long with someone who made me feel less than human? Why didn't I speak up the first time she dismissed my feelings as energetically blocked? Why did I let her twist my quietness into failure? I didn't miss Elise. I missed the version of myself I thought I was with her, someone romantic, grounded, dependable. But that person had been slowly disassembled over the course of 3 years, turned into a puzzle piece that only fit when she wanted it to. And the worst part, I'd let it happen. A week passed, then 2, I blocked her number. I deleted her photos. I thought I was healing. Then I got the email, subject line. "You never asked asterisk why." It was from a burner Gmail address. No signature, no emojis, just that cold surgical phrase, and an attachment, a video file. I don't know why I opened it. Curiosity, masochism, hope. It started with a shaky handheld shot, Elise, on a blanket under a tree, laughing. The sun filtered through her hair in soft golden streaks. Darius was behind the camera, narrating like some amateur documentarian. "She thinks she's a butterfly," he said, laughing. Then he turned the camera on himself. I paused the video. He looked normal, no flowing robes. Just a plain t-shirt and jeans, short hair, bearded, smiling like he knew some private joke with the universe. I pressed play. He sat beside her and pulled her close. "So tell the truth," he said. "Why him?" Elise stared off into the distance for a second. Then she shrugged. "Because he was safe," she said. "Because I was tired of men with fire, and Eli was calm, predictable, stable." "That sounds like a good thing," Daria said. She smiled, bitter. "Until it is, until you realize you're dying a little more each day. He never hurt me. He just never moved me." He kissed her shoulder, and now. She looked at him, eyes glowing. "Now I feel alive again." The video cut off. I sat there, frozen, staring at the screen. My stomach turned, but not from betrayal, from recognition. She wasn't lying. That was how she saw me, not a monster. Not an abuser, just a numb, fading man who couldn't make her feel. I wanted to scream, to send it back to her with 1,000 replies. But instead, I shut the laptop slowly and sat in silence. The truth hurt more than the cheating. Because it was boring asterisk. Because it was ordinary asterisk. Because it wasn't a story where I could be the hero. 3 days later, I got a call from Elise's mother. I almost didn't pick up. But something in me, maybe a leftover reflex of who I'd been, told me to answer. "Elijah," she said, her voice shaky. "Have you spoken to Elise?" "No," I said coldly. "Why would I?" "She's missing." My mind blanked. "What do you mean?" "She left a voicemail yesterday, crying, saying she made a mistake, that she's not safe." "Did she mention Darius?" A pause. "I don't know who that is." Suddenly my chest tightened. The nausea that had faded after the breakup came rushing back. That video, that house, that man, something felt wrong. "I think I know where she might be," I said. I grabbed my keys and drove, faster than I should have, back to the house with the ivy. I hadn't been back since that day. I watched her disappear behind that door like she belonged to someone else. But this time, I wasn't watching. I was going in. The house looked smaller than I remembered, less like a secret temple, and more like a place where bad things happened quietly. The ivy that once made it look romantic now just felt suffocating, like vines tightening around a throat. I parked across the street and watched for a moment. No lights, no sound. The car she used wasn't in the driveway. I knocked on the door, no answer. Then I knocked again, harder, still nothing. I don't know what possessed me to try the knob. Maybe I expected it to be locked. I hoped it would be, but when it turned easily in my hand, a chill shot straight up my spine. The door creaked open. Inside, it was too quiet. The kind of quiet that's deliberate, that holds its breath. I stepped into a narrow hallway that opened into a living room, sparsely furnished, a leather couch, some books, incense still burning in a bowl. The smell was sickly sweet and clung to the walls. "Elise," I called out, no response. I moved slowly through the space, heart pounding. There were notebooks scattered on the coffee table, all handwritten. I flipped one open. Page after page of unfiltered emotion. She's opening, she's surrendering, she's breaking her shell. His handwriting, Darius's words, they weren't love letters. They were logs, observations, as if she was an experiment. I moved down the hall. One room was an office, candles, cushions, a low altar with crystals, tarot cards fanned out in a perfect half-moon. Another was a bedroom. The sheets were messy, the window cracked slightly. It was colder here. Like something had just left, then I heard it, a faint noise, a thump, my body tensed. It came from behind a door at the end of the hall, a basement door. Of course it would be a basement. I approached carefully. The thumping came again, softer this time, like a shoe scuffing against concrete. I held my breath and opened the door. A steep staircase led down into darkness. I flicked the light switch, nothing. "Elise," I called again. Silence. I took a step down, then another. The air was damp. It smelled like old wood and mold and something else, something metallic. At the bottom was a narrow basement room. My eyes adjusted slowly. There were more cushions on the floor, like a meditation space, only now it looked like a shrine that had been abandoned mid-ritual. And in the far corner, I saw her, Elise. She was sitting on the floor, arms wrapped around her knees, barefoot, her hair a tangled mess. She looked up, and for a second she didn't seem surprised to see me. "Elijah," she whispered. Her voice cracked. "What the hell happened?" She tried to speak, but her lips trembled too hard. I rushed over, kneeling beside her, touching her arm. She flinched. "I couldn't leave," she said, eyes wide. "He wouldn't let me." My jaw clenched. "Where is he?" She shook her head. "Gone for now. He said he was going to a retreat, said I needed to fast from outside energy. He took my phone. He locked the doors." "Jesus, I thought I wanted it," she whispered. "The attention, the intensity. He made me feel seen asterisk. but it was like falling into a mirror and drowning in it. I didn't know where I ended, and he began. Her voice cracked again. He started saying things like, "You're not ready to go back." Like I wasn't whole yet, that you had broken me. My throat tightened. "I'm getting you out of here," I said. She didn't argue. I wrapped my coat around her and led her upstairs. She walked like someone who hadn't been on steady ground in days, maybe weeks. Once we were outside, she blinked against the light like it hurt her eyes. I drove us to the hospital. I didn't care if she hated me for it. She needed help, real help, not mantras, not incense, not some emotionally manipulative guru who used poetic language to isolate and control. After the intake nurse took her inside, I sat in the waiting room for hours. I didn't call her mother. I didn't even know what to say. What was I supposed to tell her? That her daughter had fallen in love with a man who thought he was God and ended up a prisoner in his spiritual sandbox. Eventually, a nurse came out and told me Elise had been admitted for observation. She was stable, exhausted, malnourished, but no drugs in her system, no injuries, just emotional trauma, lots of it. I left the hospital at sunrise. For the first time in weeks, I felt heavy, not numb, not empty, just real asterisk, like I was finally carrying the weight I'd been pretending didn't exist. I didn't know what would happen to Elise next, but I knew I wouldn't be the one saving her this time. The next few days blurred together. I kept expecting to feel something definitive, closure maybe, or rage, or even triumph. Instead, I just floated, went to work, answered emails, ate microwave dinners. Every now and then, Elise's face would flash in my mind, pale and quiet in that hospital gown, and I'd feel the ache return like an old injury that never healed properly. She didn't reach out. I didn't expect her to. But on the 5th day, I got a letter, handwritten, no return address. The envelope smelled faintly like lavender oil, her scent. I hesitated before opening it. Part of me wanted to burn it without reading, but another part, the part still clawing for answers, tore it open. "Elijah, I don't know if you'll ever forgive me. I don't even know if I want you to. You didn't deserve what I did. Not the betrayal, not the gaslighting, not the way I made you feel invisible when you were the only real thing in my life. I was chasing something. I thought it was passion, meaning, a connection so intense it would tear me apart and rebuild me. And for a while, Darius made me feel that, or at least, he knew how to talk like he could. But there's a difference between soul and seduction. I didn't know that until it was too late. I chose him because he made me feel seen. I stayed because I forgot who I was without someone reflecting me back. And when he started controlling me, isolating me, I told myself it was spiritual discipline. I thought I was evolving, but it was you who saw me, all of me. Even the broken parts I tried to hide behind incense and affirmations. I read the journal again. I saw how cruel I sounded, how little I valued your stability, your patience, your silence, the very things I used to admire. You gave me peace and I traded it for chaos because I was bored, because I didn't know how to sit still with someone who didn't demand to be the center of the room. I'm in therapy now, real therapy, not breathwork, not sound baths. Someone who doesn't ask me about my chakras but makes me look in the mirror and ask who I've really been. You don't have to write back, you don't have to forgive me, but I needed you to know you weren't soulless, you were just quiet. And I was too loud to hear you. Thank you for finding me when I didn't know I was lost. Elise. I read it 3 times. Then I folded it neatly and placed it in the drawer beside my bed, not to keep her close, but to remind myself that sometimes, the people who scream about needing love the loudest are the ones who can't receive it when it's handed to them gently. I didn't reply, there was nothing more to say. Months passed. Spring turned to summer. I moved out of the rental and into a place with real windows and sunlight that didn't feel artificial. I started writing again, just journaling at first, but then essays, fiction. I submitted one to a magazine. It got published. And one afternoon, while sitting at a cafe, a stranger walked up and asked if the seat next to me was taken. She was Elise. She didn't smell like lavender or talk about divine energy or healing frequencies. She asked me what I was writing. I told her honestly, a story about forgetting how to feel. She smiled. Then I hope you remember by the end. It wasn't love at first sight, it wasn't magic, but it was something quiet, something real, something I wasn't ready for before. And maybe, just maybe, I wasn't soulless after all.